I did not come in for 4 days. I did, however, think about the reels each morning. I want to be precise about that. The reels were still here. I knew they were still here. There was no reason to think otherwise. I simply didn't come in. I am logging that as a fact without interpretation. The remaining reels are where I left them, 5 of them. I counted when I came in this morning. I'm not sure why I counted. I selected Reel 2. Standard outer markings. Date of original recording, not noted. Content classification. Institutional, technical. Condition, good. Nothing unusual on the box exterior. I removed the lid. There was a card inside, not attached to the box, loose, resting on top of the reel, approximately 8 centimeters by 12. White stock, aged yellow at the edges, 2 lines of handwriting. The archive uses a printed access log for each collection item. Stamped fields, typed entries. This was not that. This was handwritten, informal, as if someone had made their own record and placed it inside the box rather than filing it through the system. First entry, a date, 1962. No month specified, no name, an initial only. 1 letter, which I won't record here because I want to be careful about what I commit to the log before I've verified anything. Second entry, a date, 1978, September, and a name, Strand. I set the card aside. I mounted the reel. I checked the alignment. I pressed play. The recording begins mid-silence, approximately 4 seconds of blank tape before the voice arrives. It was Ruth Callow.
This is an attempt to describe the incident with precision. I am aware that precision is difficult here. I will try to stay with what I can verify. The incident occurred during a live verbal exchange, not during playback, not in proximity to operating equipment. I was speaking with a colleague in the main reading room, standard conversation. There was a pause, a natural pause in speech, and in that pause I heard a word. Not my word, not my colleague's word. It arrived in the interval between our sentences. My initial hypothesis was acoustic. Reflected sound, a nearby conversation bleeding through the partition, a frequency artifact from the ventilation system. I spent 3 weeks testing each hypothesis. None of them held. My second hypothesis was the splice point. I had been working extensively with recordings that had been edited, physically cut and rejoined. There is a known phenomenon of interpolated audio at the splice, material from adjacent segments bleeding across the join. I considered whether long exposure to such material might produce a residual effect in auditory processing. I put that in a memo. Dr. Strand reviewed it. He did not disagree. He also did not agree. The incident recurred on 4 subsequent occasions over the following 11 days. Always in a live exchange, always in the pause, always 1 word, sometimes 2. I want to note for the record that I continue to prefer the equipment hypothesis. I find it easier to work here if the problem belongs to the machines. But I should be honest. It wasn't a recording.
The recording ends there. The machine went quiet. I sat for a moment before I wrote anything down. Ruth Callow described the pause between spoken words. She described hearing something in a live exchange. She described 11 days. She left 14 days after the medical certification was issued. I'm not going to draw a parallel in this log. I'm going to log what I heard on the tape and move on to the next item. I returned to the card. The first entry, 1962. The initial. I declined to record earlier. I'm going to record it now. The letter was H. I've seen that handwriting before. In the collection documentation for this set of reels, there are internal notes, procedural memos about the original acquisition, condition assessments from the early years of the archive. Several of those notes are signed with the same hand. D. Harrow, audio consultant, listed in the archive personnel records from 1958 to 1967. I pulled Harrow's access records from the system. He accessed reels from the Hollis collection, this collection, on the following dates: March 1962, November 1963, June 1965, and one final entry, March 1967. D. Harrow died in December 1967. His last access to these reels was 9 months before his death. He worked with this collection for nearly a decade. I have no record of what he found in it. His internal memos stop in 1965. There are no notes from the 1967 visit. The card he placed in Reel 2 in 1962 lists only the date and his initial. No notes, no findings, just the fact of being here. That is a particular kind of record, the kind you make when you don't know what to write. I ran a second query. I wanted every archive record associated with Strand, not just the personnel file I found when I looked up the reference in my application. Everything. The system returned one additional record. Strand is listed as external consultant, acoustic research. Active, 1976 to 1981. He held a recurring access arrangement, not a staff position, a research arrangement. He came here regularly for 5 years. The reels he accessed during that period are listed in the record. I cross-reference the numbers. They are the same reels I am currently cataloging. The Hollis collection. All of them. Harrow worked with them for 10 years. Strand worked with them for 5. Ruth Callow worked with them for a period I have not yet fully established. And now I am working with them. The archive does not record what any of them found. It records only that they came. I returned to Strand's record. There's a field for last access date. I hadn't read it carefully before. May 4th, 1984. Strand's file in the system reads, File closed. Reason, deceased. Date, May 12th, 84. May 4th to May 12th. 8 days. He was in this building 8 days before he died, working with these reels, making whatever notes he made, which I have not been able to locate in the system. I want to be careful here. I don't know what he found. The interval between his last visit and his death may be entirely coincidental. People visit archives and then die. That is the nature of time. I am logging the interval. I am not drawing a conclusion from it. I went back to the reel. Ruth's recording had ended mid-tape. I wanted to know if there was anything after it. I rewound to where she stopped and pressed play. Blank tape. The transport running, the VU meters flat. I let it run. 50 seconds, 60, 90. And then, in the recorded silence,
he found the silence.
I stopped the machine. The machine went quiet. I sat there for a while. I don't know how long. I didn't note the time. The last time I spoke to the room, I said my name. I don't know why I did that. I was testing something, I think, though I hadn't framed it as a test. This time, I asked a question. Who did? Nothing. The fluorescent light. The sound of the building at this hour, which is almost nothing. I waited what I estimated was 3 minutes. I did not repeat the question. I am logging that I asked the question. I am logging that I received no response. I am logging that this is the second time I have spoken to the silence directly. I'm aware of what a log entry like that sounds like. I'm writing it anyway. I return the reel to its box. I place the access card on top of the reel as I found it. I close the lid. I began to write the session log. Reel 2. Content. 1 recorded statement. Female voice. Date 1978. Speaker identified as Ruth Callow. Former archive staff. 1971. Statement concerns acoustic anomalies experienced during employment. No additional recorded content following the statement. Access card found inside box. 2 handwritten entries, 1962 and 1978. First entry attributed to D. Harrow on the basis of handwriting comparison. Second entry signed E. Strand. That is the factual record. I stared at it for a moment. Then I picked up the card again. I had read the card twice. I thought I had read it thoroughly. There were 2 entries. That was what I had logged. There were not 2 entries. There were 3. The third was at the bottom of the card, very faint. Pencil, not ink. A date only. No name, no initial. May 4th, 1984. Strand's last recorded visit to this building was May 4th, 1984. And on May 4th, 1984, he opened Reel 2, took out his own card, the one he had placed inside 6 years earlier, and added a date to it. No name, no notes, just the date. The same kind of record Harrow had made 22 years before. Not a finding, not a note, a mark left by someone who had run out of language. Dr. Strand signed into the archive on May 4th, 1984. He died on May 12th. I am logging the interval, 8 days. I am also logging that, for the first time since I began this work, I considered not opening the next box. I did not close the case file. I left it open,